It's our last night in Silva Bay. Very exciting day today with a fire on board this boat. Just rowing back now from shore. A whole fleet of geese there, paddling away in the formation, the V formation. Yeah, very tranquil here. As you can see, it's quite nice. The sun's just dipped below the horizon. I've just missed it, so very sheltered anchorage here. So I've been up Shipyard Rock today in the morning, had a look there, check the chart, see how I can get out easy in the morning. Jeremy and I are going to leave about 7. It's a good tide running down tomorrow morning, so we should get through the pass and maybe even to Victoria on the same day. So yeah, good call to stay here today. Yeah, quiet, rested, just tinkered away on the little bits and pieces on the boat, and with that major excitement for this fire. I was a little bit late to help with my fire extinguisher, but just waited around. Then the huge hovercraft came in, the police boat, the search and rescue boat. It was an event for the town. So yeah, I was in box seat there watching it all. Bit of a sad though, the guy, he bought this boat about a year and a half ago, and he's been living aboard doing it up. Just heartbreaking to see him as he stepped off his boat into this dinghy. His friend took him off, his kayak had melted a bit, and yeah, he just sat there next to us. And luckily he wasn't injured. One of the local shipyard boats went out with a fire pump and the portable pump, and yeah, pumped heaps of water into it, but it didn't sink the boat because the bilge pumps kept working and working and working. So and then vessel assist came along and tied it up, and then the Coast Guard and the local fire brigade from Gibraltar, they went aboard with a TMI thermal imaging camera just to check there's no hot spots and it wasn't a danger to navigation. So, and it's still floating over there just quietly by itself. You might be able to see it there. So yeah, it's a sad day. Jack was the guy's name. Yeah, very distraught. So it's the worst thing. His fire's on board. Could it have been fixed or averted? Possibly. He was saying on the dock, I overheard him because I stayed on there all morning listening to the Coast Guard and having a chat to them. And he said that he had switched the battery switch on, and his depth sounder said 24 volts, so he switched it off. And apparently he pulled out the fuse and it was really hot. By the time he turned around, the fire was going from the wiring in the back of the boat. So yeah, faulty wiring. It's hard to say what it was, a short. But anyway, so it could happen very quickly, and I'd seen it from a distance from Shipyard Rock, a bit of smoke coming out, and thought, oh, that's a fire. And then I rowed across to my boat, and talking to Jeremy, I thought, hang on, there's more smoke coming out than normal. I saw him there with a guy on the dinghy. He was still on the boat, weren't waving their arms or yelling fire or anything like that. So I thought, right, back to my boat, picked up a fire extinguisher, the one I had, the good one, and rowed across as fast as I could. And as I got there, probably within range, the owner was saying, look, don't go close, there's a propane board and gasoline tanks on the back there. So I just stood off. It's kind of sad. It would have been nice to have helped them, but yeah, another local guys had the balls, and they called them the Good Samaritans in the local Facebook page. Got a water pump and pumped it and stopped it from sinking. So I think it's a complete write-off. I had a closer look on the way back this afternoon. So yeah, so Jack's a bit upset, which is, yeah, so am I actually, to see a nice classic wooden boat like that burn almost to the ground. So I was kind of expecting an explosion. I was standing back behind a boat, so but yeah, luckily no one was injured. So that was the excitement in Silva Bay today. So not that you'd expect. I thought a quiet day here, just tinkering on the sails, doing some stitching, and yeah, it turned into watching the Coast Guard. RM27, the boat that came out to find me the other day, they rolled into town, they turned up. It was nice to see them, took a picture of them. And this hovercraft boat was really interesting. It came through the channel. I was sitting just to the east of the boat, and I could hear this roar like an aircraft engines, and I thought, oh, a seaplane's coming in. Well, all of a sudden this huge hovercraft came through that little channel at speed with a big wake, and I was like, holy crack. So anyway, it motored over very slowly and just stood by because the vessel assist was pumping it full of water. And when they pulled into the dock, had a chat to the guys there. They were getting their water pumps out, hoping to give it a go, but they didn't. And yeah, it turns out that hovercraft can do 60 knots across the thing. It's based in Vancouver, and it arrived within about 10 minutes, I think, of the fire really getting to go. And I said, oh, you're here pretty quick. And the guy smiled at me and said, oh yeah, we're based over in Vancouver, However, we were up delivering water to a lighthouse just north of here, about 10 minutes north. So yeah, very fortunate they were here, so they had a bit of an exercise coming down here. And it was nice to see that the search and rescue and the Coast Guard and Port authorities all work together when they hear these sort of call-outs, you know, because fire at sea is something that's you never want to experience, especially if there's no one around, because yeah, it's very hot, getting burns, and yeah, so it made me stop and think today, you know, have I covered myself a fire, you know, electrically wise? So I went back, checked my electrics, tied up a couple of cables which maybe are loose, tightened the terminals, and just checked it, thinking, well, that's the last thing I want. I mean, I've only got a couple of bilge pumps operating and a few LED lights. There's no big current loads, bar the engine, which is a 24-volt system. That's a separate system. So yeah, so it's really made me think, right, I've got to really keep an eye on this electrical stuff and test it every so often, check the terminals, there's no corrosions. And yeah, so yeah, so I suppose it was a blessing in disguise that I witnessed a fire firsthand, very, very close, and got the feedback from the Coast Guard and the police about what they're doing, how they handle it. So yeah, I'll put that lesson to good use for me, and yeah, hopefully have safe travels without fires. So, and I think one thing that I don't regret is trading the wood-burning stove, which is on the main bulkhead, for a Martin backpack guitar. So I mean, sure, the music will get me warm instead. So that's as close as I'm going to get to a fire. So yeah, all right, well, I'll sign off here. I'm off to the boat now, get a good night's sleep, and yeah, goodbye Silva Bay, a beautiful spot. I highly recommend it. Anyone who wants to come this way, stop in here. Nice sheltered anchorage, and yeah. And checking on the entrance today, I went up with a dinghy and I measured it to the rocks at low tide. It was very low tide, and Charlie's charts recommend it's about 60 feet off. You've got to stay the reef. But in actual fact, it's about 25 to 30 feet off the base of the rock light. It's the concrete light itself. Then it starts to show off on a rock. So it did low tide with a boat about 5-foot draft. You could be about 35 or 40 feet off it on the edge of your beam, and you could safely get through. So I think at high water you can go reasonably close. And as you come around the corner to the left towards Silva Bay pub, it's basically a straight line clearance there. There's a little bit of a shoulder, but there's moorings in the way. So, and on the starboard side as you come in, that's probably the most dangerous rock sticking out. Where the headlands jut into that entrance, you must keep well off those, because the second little headland in, there's a protruding rock which sticks out quite sharply. So at high tide you wouldn't probably have an issue, but at low tide I would definitely keep to almost the centre of that channel coming in, and you would be safe. But I would not recommend coming in at night. So I think it's hopefully that helps anyone out there. Alright, so there you go, another look. It's absolutely stunning. With so nice pictures, see those geese just in formation paddling away in front of me there. So yeah, goodbye Silva Bay, and hello Victoria. Pull your past tomorrow morning.